you're saying that the role of the CISO or the role of the security professional is not necessarily to say you're totally safe, you're totally secure. It's about mitigation of failure. That's right. So yeah, explain to me about the role of failure within the security organisation. Why does that matter?
Yeah, so typically we're seen as the fifth, emergency service, and we're not allowed to fail. So there's very much it's very much about, if you do fail, then maybe your head is on the chopping block. So you're going to be out of a job. There'll be penalties and things like that. But mostly it's a case of, okay, it's time for you to go. And so really it's about creating the psychological safety within the environment so that people are able to learn from their failures. So if we can't fail, then we can't learn. And we're not failing because when we do fail, most of the time, certainly as leaders, we're out of a job. So therefore, we're not progressing. We're not evolving as fast as we could. Right. It's new person in, start all over again, fail, no lessons learned. So typically that's what's happening.
Is that a global phenomenon, or is that something that's localized? Because I know that attitude towards failure in some, like in Japan or China, their attitude towards failure are totally different to an attitude of, say, San Francisco.
Yes.
Is that a global security problem?
So I can only speak from my experience of dealing with leaders mostly in the UK, Europe, Australia, and North America. But that's what I typically see. And then this other thing that we spoke about was the whole kind of decision making. So engaging your brain. So it's just that permission to do. And so often I see leaders, and also I see it with women as well. The two are very, very similar in the industry. But so often I see this waiting for permission. And again, this is largely because of the environment. So it's all about, if I make the wrong move, what if I make the wrong move? So therefore, if I'm given permission, then I've been given permission. So therefore, I'm safer to do that. Whereas so much of the time it is about enabling our teams, creating the psychological safety, which is really needed for the fourth industrial revolution. We need to move faster. Speed is the currency of business. Tech is being developed at speed. We don't know what's coming at us. So we have to move at speed. So therefore, if we're always waiting, or if we're frightened to make a decision or to implement or to do, then we're being slower. Yeah. And then we're not empowered, and then we're not thinking creatively either. We're stifled.
And this strikes me as something that is only something that can be solved from the top down.
It's absolutely. It's a leadership challenge. It's about culture.
If you can't create that awareness from the top down, what the role of security is, then you have no option if you fail. If the expectations aren't set from the beginning that this is the role of the security organisation, you're doomed for failure, surely.
Absolutely. You're not going to be, as an organisation, you're not going to be as secure. Your costs are going to increase because you're going to be fined more because there'll be breaches. So compliance and regulation and things like that, you're going to lose money. So it could be theft, data theft, or assets and things like that. So your business is not going to perform.
But even within the security organisation as a whole, if your security organisation isn't able to communicate exactly what their role in the business is to the top leadership, how on earth are you actually you're never going to be ever feel comfortable with failure, because failure has one outcome, which is well, you failed, you've not done well, and you get slashed, and that's not what you want. So we talked a bit about the goal is to say, well, actually we'll help you mitigate sensitive risk. We can't completely guarantee we can't guarantee, there's no guarantees in pretty anything, but
nope.
I can't guarantee as a security organisation, but I can say these are the steps that we're taking towards mitigating risks towards the business.
That's right. That's right. So getting that level of understanding
is critical.
Yeah, absolutely. Really owned. Yeah. And from a reputation. So that's reputation in terms of organisation, but also your reputation as a leader.
Yeah.
So we're all working, and it's really important that we maintain a high reputation, because we need to be able to attract the teams, wherever we're going.
Do you think that there is that level of understanding between, say, the CEO and the security organisation as to what the roles, what is actually the reality of keeping the organization secure?
In some companies, yes. But again, it depends on the organization and the CISO.
I've not seen it that
yeah,
often. I think in a lot of the instances,
I would agree, it's not that often.
No, in a lot of the instances I've seen, the expectation is, well, right, we're going to pay you the money, you're going to keep us totally secure, and there will never be an incident ever again because that's why I've hired you.
Absolutely.
but that's not realistic, of course.
No, it's not. And yeah, so that's, I think, mostly a case. That's mostly what's going on.
What have they got to compare it to? You hire a CFO and you can prevent yourselves against, pretty much, you know that what you hire a CFO for and the risk that they can protect you against. And within, arguably, you could say that that's a very tangible role in which you can say, I've hired you to protect against this risk, but there are less variables. You're not under attack. You haven't got all of these adversaries necessarily that, like you would as a CISO.
Yeah, but so we also talked about asking better questions and things like that.
Right,
so if you want a better answer, ask a better question. If you want a better solution, start with the questions that you're asking. And that is a good question because it's just like, what is possible for us? It's really kind of setting the parameters and those boundaries. What is possible for us? And most of the time, nobody knows. But you've got to start with what's possible. This is where we want to, this is the risk exposure. This is where we want to lie, between these parameters.
Right. This is a risk that we're comfortable with as an organization. Yeah. Right, understand.
Or speed. So we've just been attacked, we've just, had an incident. So therefore we're putting in our response times. This is the expectation. So when I've not heard of that happening. So it's just that, and that's really important because more and more times it is a case of not if, and not a case of, well, it is a case of when, but it's more a case of when it's discovered. So we know that an attacker could be in our network, in our environment for 6 months before they're discovered.
Right, yeah.
So it really is a case of, well, what is our message? What do we do? What's our process when we discover that? Because that might be going on now.
Yeah. This idea about asking the right questions, I think, is such a fundamental concept. I think that you can't, unless you ask the right questions, you can never progress and never progress your security organization. And
it's about being open. So which is like secure, it's like lockdown, not being open, like withhold, don't let anyone in, siloed environments, knowledge hoarding and things like that. But it's about being open in terms of your learning.
Yeah.
So say when it comes to asking questions and things like that, really approach it from a beginner's mind. Because if you are genuine, rather than this is process, ask this question, ask that question. Yes, you can do that. But really from a leadership perspective, we've been in the industry, most of us, for decades. Some maybe 7 years or whatever, but, most of us have been in the industry for decades. So surely you have enough. And this is what I know and see. They do have that ability, but if they're empowered, then they're able to use it. And if they approach things with that beginner's mind, from that perspective of, I'm interested, let me learn, let me not presume.
Yeah.
And most of the time we come to these things from a presumption from, yes, this is how it is. And sometimes that's not how it is.
Yeah. And I think that what's really, asking the right questions is important, but I think also revisiting those questions and having a process to say.
I agree.
Because what happens is you start a project with the best one in the world and you start that project, and then you get sort of 6 months down the line, oh, hang on, let me revisit. Right, we got lost somewhere along the way and we've failed to answer that question. Let's go back and revisit that. And unless we're constantly questioning and constantly going back to that and questioning all of our assumptions, we're going to struggle.
And that is about empowering your team members as well.
Yeah.
So sometimes it can be, I know leaders, I know CSOs and CISOs who are really skilled at certain things, but they're very strong in certain elements and really weak in certain elements. But what they are good at is they've made sure that they've supplemented their weaknesses with people who are strong in those areas. So they've got their back.
Yeah.
So say just what you've said is a case of, are we still on track? Are we answering the question that we set out to?
Yeah.
You do need, either you've got that skill as a leader or you've got someone within that team who you've empowered to speak up and out to keep us on track. And a lot of what we've spoken about today are the soft skills.
Yeah, not once are we talking about any of the technology stuff. Yeah, that's interesting.
But it's about getting the foundations right. So often in security, what I see is, we talk about the human side of things, and usually that's about awareness. So from an employee perspective, about phishing attacks and things like that. But we don't usually talk about these other aspects, the soft skills, the influence, the leadership skills, the yeah.